In the United States, controversy and outrage are growing over a corporate giant that has hijacked local TV news by forcing news anchors to deliver a message that undermines their own journalism and ends up being, according to many, a script meant for Trump TV. Now, we reported earlier this week that anchors at almost 200 local stations owned by Sinclair Broadcast Group had been ordered to read from the same script, which implies that the mainstream media knowingly reports fake news. Now, those anchors say that they were given the text and given no choice. Sinclair is in Washington right now lobbying the government to give its approval to purchase even more TV stations. All of this has prompted pushback on the air. Take a look.
What happens when your local news isn't local? This. Sinclair owns this station and nearly 200 others. It forced dozens of anchors to recite the same political message, word for word. Now Sinclair is trying to control local news stations in 72% of American homes. Tell the FCC to stop the Sinclair merger.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Well, the pushback is also now political. This week, a congressman from California posted an open letter calling for the Sinclair merger to be blocked. Representative Tony Cardenas tweeted a copy of his letter signed by 37 other lawmakers, arguing that allowing Sinclair to purchase more stations will result in higher costs for consumers and less content at a lower quality. Well, Sinclair has fired back this week at critics, saying that it is simply advocating better journalism with its canned, must-run messages. Now, this week, emails from Sinclair's CEO, David Smith, were published in New York Magazine, and they reveal a corporate leadership openly hostile to the mainstream media. Now, this is what David Smith wrote to a reporter at the magazine who requested an interview. I must tell you that in all the 45 plus years that I have been in the media business, I have never seen a single article about us that is reflective of reality. We don't talk to the print media as a general principle, as we find them to be so devoid of reality and serving no real purpose. The print media is so left-wing as to be meaningless dribble, which accounts for why the industry is and will fade away. Just no credibility. Happy to see print media wither away and intent on taking control of the airwaves at the same time. That is not my assessment, but rather one that is shared by my next guest, who worked as a news director at a Sinclair TV station and then decided to call it quits. I'm happy to welcome to the day Aaron Weiss. He joins me tonight from just outside of Denver, Colorado. Aaron, it's good to have you on the show. You grew up in a TV news family. Your mother was an anchor in Arizona for 3 decades, and you write that it only took a short time at your Midwest station in, what was it, Sioux City? I think that's where you were.
Sioux City, Iowa, yeah.
Sioux City, Iowa. It only took a short time for you to realize that Sinclair was the evil empire. What happened?
Shortly after the station was acquired, I had been there for about 1.5 years beforehand, and right as soon as the station was acquired, these must-run scripts and packages started coming down, and they're well documented all over the place. They have a very conservative slant to them, and I don't have a problem with conservative news or liberal news. My problem is that Sinclair co-opts the credibility that its news anchors have built up over years and decades in their communities, and they use that credibility to advance their political agenda. And that, to me, is unethical.
And we've heard Sinclair this week, in their defense, they've said that what they're doing is they're only providing their stations with commentary, and it's labeled as commentary. But let me ask you, while you were at your station, were you able to provide commentary from any other source other than Sinclair?
No, that came up during a call with all of the news directors in the group. Someone asked, hey, can we put local commentary on the air? And the answer was a very firm no. And the gist of the reasoning behind it was basically they didn't want to confuse the audience with mixed messages, which I suppose is kind of insulting your audience's intelligence if you think they can't handle hearing multiple opinions at once. But that's very much where Sinclair is coming from. The only opinions allowed on the air are the ones that come out of corporate.
I mean, I think when we heard the news about these anchors at, so many stations being told that they had to read this script and basically being told, you don't have a choice. I mean, we felt bad for them, but at the same time, we thought, well, why didn't you stand up to management? I mean, what do you make of these anchors basically towing the corporate line?
They're trapped. Harsh contracts are standard across the entire industry, but Sinclair contracts in particular include what are called liquidated damages. So that if you try to leave your contract early, Sinclair will demand you pay back tens of thousands of dollars. And I wrote a piece in the Huffington Post earlier this week and immediately heard back from folks, including folks who had worked for me and I hadn't even realized had been threatened with these big lawsuits just for trying to basically go live with a fiance in some other city, not even like go across the street, just personal reasons. And Sinclair would not have it.
Yeah, we understand. I think that at least one person, maybe two producers, say that they have resigned as a result of what has happened in the last week. But they're not talking to anyone on the record, or at least they're not going on camera. Are they afraid then that they could be sued for? Is that what you're saying? That they could be sued for a breach of contract because they terminated their contract?
Yeah, I was fortunate in that I was never asked to sign a contract. My supervisor at corporate at one point said, hey, we've got to get you under contract, and then a contract never arrived. Everyone else, as far as I can tell, is under contract, and those contracts basically say, yeah, you can't talk. Even after you leave, you cannot reveal anything that went on inside the company. And also for anyone still inside the industry, it's hard for them to talk because regardless of your industry, you don't want to get a reputation as a bomb thrower or a troublemaker. So having been now out of the industry for 3 years, I have that level of comfort that folks still in the industry might not.
Well, do you think that the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, do you think that it will approve Sinclair's merger?
Given that the head of the FCC is Ajit Pai, who seems to be perfectly content to advance President Trump's agenda, I do expect they will. He's under investigation, so maybe something would come out of that sidetracks the merger, or maybe Congress steps in, but that would seem to be also unlikely, at least until after midterm elections, and we'd see what happens there. But my guess is, if I was wagering money, the merger will be approved and go through prior to midterms.
And Aaron, what does this tell us about independent reporting in the U.S.? Here in Europe, we scratch our heads and ask, how can independent news be owned and operated by a commercial giant? I mean, have you been co-opted in the U.S.?
It increases the need for media literacy in the U.S. We have lots of commercial giants. I've worked for many of them, and Sinclair is unique. The other large station groups do have a true commitment to local journalism because they realize that good local journalism is also good business. So while the model is somewhat unique, you do have commercial businesses dedicated to good journalism, and you also have nonprofit journalistic outlets. You have National Public Radio, you have PBS that also do great work. The challenge is it's not clear who owns what station unless you're looking for it. Yeah. So if you're in one of these markets, you don't know that Sinclair came in and bought your station one day, but all of a sudden your anchor that you've been watching for 30 years is all of a sudden introducing commentary from Boris Epshteyn, President Trump's advisor. That's right.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier today, the chief political analyst there at Sinclair.
Yeah.
Aaron Weiss, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to share your insights with us. Aaron Weiss joining us tonight from Colorado. Aaron, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the chance.
Well, the day is nearly done, but as ever, the conversation continues online. You'll find us on Twitter, either at DW News, or you can write directly to me at Brent Goff TV. Don't forget to use that hashtag, The Day. And remember, whatever happens between now and then, tomorrow is another day. We'll see you again right here on Monday.